Now, Ian's latest article for ESPN FC, he gives us one player every Premier League team should sign. Now, he did it for all 20 teams, but we're picking out some of the big teams here and telling you Arsenal with Gyokeres, we're seeing there Liverpool, João Pedro, Kimmich to Man City, Spurs with Dani Olmo. We'll get to some of these in just a moment. But first of all, Ian, you're getting some traction on this article. So can you give us the brief that you were given and a little bit of context to it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying those deals are imminent or even that they're going to happen. I mean, the briefing was we're just having a little bit of Christmas fun here. We don't know how the market's going to shape up. And I was thinking, where do these teams need improvement? So, I mean, for instance, Kimmich, experienced World Cup player for Germany, Bayern Munich for season after season, very, very steady. Manchester City's biggest problem is central midfield and filling that Rodri hole. He'd be a great signing. He's out of contract in the summer. It's probably not going to happen, but it would be a pretty good guy to have.
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit more about Gyokeres to Arsenal then, Ian, and why this was your go-to here.
Because then I think Isak is probably, the Newcastle United striker is the guy that they'd probably like and would probably suit their style most of all. But if you're looking for a guy who is a proven, put the ball in the back of the net in the way that Ian Wright did, in the way that Thierry Henry did at Arsenal, Gyokeres' figures are very, very impressive as he's moved up and up through the game. I mean, he was scoring and banging in loads of goals at Coventry City in League One and then the Championship, and teams looked at him and, nobody took the gamble in England to elevate him, and his figures at Sporting are off the charts. So he's a good gamble, I'd say.
When it comes to it, obviously, so looking at a player, Gyokeres is here in Ian's list. How long will it take a player to adapt to Arteta's system, what he wants from them at Arsenal? How hard is it to do that?
Well, I 100% think it depends on the mentality of the player. Number one, if they're not daunted by it, if they are, then that's a huge problem. But it's about getting off the mark quickly. I think the Gyokeres one is interesting because it's difficult for me, and I'm sure other people, to think about what Darwin Núñez has done at Liverpool, because in Benfica he was putting up the same sort of numbers and scoring the same sort of goals that Gyokeres was scoring, but yet he has struggled to do the same thing at Liverpool. I think we're now in his third season. That would be the one thing with the Gyokeres one. The one I'm interested in is João Pedro.
All right. So let's go there because we've got two former Liverpool boys on the panel. Before we get to that, Ian can explain João Pedro to Liverpool.
I just think he's a player. I think he's on a lot of people's wish list. He's got speed. He's a stylish player, and he's obviously got goals in him as well. It just strikes me. I mean, Stevie might disagree, as the kind of guy that Liverpool might like to have around if they did lose Salah, but we're being speculative. I mean, Liverpool's pretty well stocked in that area of the pitch, so it's nothing urgent.
OK, so let me get your take, Don, then, before we come back to Stevie, because I think Stevie's a little concerned about this pick.
On the João Pedro?
João Pedro to Liverpool.
I don't see that one out. Yeah, I would say probably a left-back's probably more important. They've got Diogo Jota, who I think is a better finisher than João Pedro. I like him, don't get me wrong, and I know where Ian's coming from, but I think Anthony Robinson, but if you're looking for the profile of player, I think Milos Gyokeres is impressing the Liverpool scouts. So I think a left-back might be on the cards before any more firepower. But I love the fact that we're talking Tottenham, and I love the fact that Ian hasn't gone any defenders or any holding midfield players. He's gone Dani Olmo, even more attacking. Love it.
Yeah, but the article, John, the article goes on to mention the possibility of making an inquiry about Koke at Atletico Madrid, who would sit in front of the defence, and he's not getting in the Atletico team.
Don, you should go read it, Don. Maybe you could write your own Christmas wish list.
Interesting as well how Ian's gone for even less legs at Man City, bringing Joshua Kimmich in instead of Barella from Inter. He wants less legs, bringing Kimmich in.
Well, let's see what Don's article is next time he does his Christmas wish list. Right, let's get back to the João Pedro one then. Why did you say I'm interested in this?
I don't mind João Pedro at all.
Right.
I think that's an interesting show.
OK, so you don't mind it?
Well, because he... and don't... It's not like for like, but it kind of reminds me of Bobby Firmino. You know, he's a guy, João Pedro, that can score goals. But when I see him playing, he looks to me as though he's a Bobby Firmino, where he links everything together and sets people up. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with. I mean, you'd probably get him for a decent price as well. You know, probably half of what you paid for Núñez. And Liverpool needs somebody up front. You know, right now Luis Diaz is playing great up front, but is that really where he's going to be for the rest of his career at Liverpool? So yes, I agree with Don. We probably need a young left back, but I think the João Pedro one would be interesting. I think he's a really good football player. And let's be honest, when Bobby Firmino came from Hoffenheim, I think it was, to Liverpool, I was like, I don't know about this. And look how great he was. So, Darke, I'm with you and João Pedro. I think that would be really interesting.
Yeah, I'm just laughing at how Don...
Something with Liverpool being interested in João Pedro, but we'll see.
Yeah, I like how Don actually did what a kid does when they go to Santa, and instead of just focusing on that one thing they want to talk about, that one gift, he's like, well, actually, these are all the gifts that I would like at once. So, Don, I'm going to go back to you.
Well, it's Christmas, isn't it?
It is Christmas. We're being generous. We're in a generous spirit here tonight on the show. What's the pick that annoys you the most? One name on that list, or one name that you agree with the most, but preferably the one that annoys you the most?
Not really annoying. I think when you look at it, I think for Arsenal, I think Sesko might be a better option, cheaper at Leipzig. I think he's a player that probably would cost less than Gyokeres. And I talked about the left backs. I think that Liverpool might be looking at. Chelsea, I think, I'm not sure if it was a list that Ian done, but I think they're crying out for a goalkeeper. They need a world-class goalkeeper. And I think Magic Mike, AC Milan's the best. So, yes, it's interesting. It's interesting how people see the game, and it's interesting that Ian said Joshua Kimmich, and I was only having a little bit of fun because he's a brilliant player, but I was just sort of looking at it thinking from a legs point of view, I would have thought Barella might have been a better option because he's more dynamic, he can get around the pitch, and I think that's what I think Man City need.
We knew there'd be a Serie A shout in there from Don. We knew it was coming.
Yeah. Well, he's got a Fiorentina strip one.
Absolutely.
Well,
of course
I
it was coming.
disagree with Don about Barella. He's a good player. But I wonder what the boys think about. I've suggested Anthony Robinson of Fulham to go into Amorim's Manchester United system as the left wing back, because I think Robinson has got more assists than any defender in the Premier League over the last 1.5 seasons.
Some player.
Yeah, well, Don wasn't happy with that because he wants him at Liverpool. So I was wondering why. Well, we already heard, yes.
Gyokeres.
All right, Don's just asking for everything tonight. Anyway, go check out the article over on ESPN.com. The ESPN FC, one player every PL team should sign, by Ian Darke.